All right, guys, we are going to try this to see how this works. I wanted to be able for you to see your calculator steps on this as well. So I'm using this document camera to see how it goes. So if you don't have a calculator, you need to have one now. Okay, so today we are finding almost our best fit quadratic function. So let's kind of reverse a little bit back to when we did this for linear and exponential. So you remember when we had our strong and weak dots, okay? The stronger the dots, meaning the closer they were to creating that line, the closer R was to 1 or R was to -1, depending on if it was an increasing or decreasing line. And so we used our calculator to find that best fit line, correct? That went through the most amount of points, okay? We did the same thing for exponential. We had a table of data, and we had this data that we had to find what would fit best on this line. And we would figure out based on how strongly R was as well. Was R really strong? Was it close to 1, making it perfect? Was it 0.8, very strong? Was it 0.3? It was kind of weak. And then positive or negative. So hopefully we kind of remember this. So over here, to help you follow along, we have the steps written out. Perfect. Just what you need to solve this problem. So part 1, so I'm gonna do 2 problems for you, and then I'm gonna have you finish the rest in class and check it with Miss Gray. So problem 1 says, find the quadratic model for the given situation using the graphing calculator to perform quadratic regression on the data. So I've got this table of data. So I'm gonna go to the calculator. Okay, now hopefully we can see this on here. So I've got my, I'm gonna kind of zoom in a little so you can see this better. So I've got my table, I'm gonna go to lists and spreadsheets. That's the first thing you're gonna go to. So I've got all of my different columns. Now, I personally just label it X and Y. You can label it height and time. It's totally up to you. Remember, make sure if somebody's used this calculator before you, you clear it from this little X over here in the corner. Okay, very, very, very important. Okay, so next, I'm gonna fill in my table with my data. So I've got 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5. Okay, I'm gonna go to the other side, 54, 104, 142, 173, 195, 208, and 216. Oop, that is not 216, 216. Okay, so it's really important that you make sure everything's lined up. Also, remember, I told you, your blue highlight cannot be up here in the gray. It also cannot be outlining any of your numbers. So you want your blue highlight to be away from everything. Okay, so next it says to perform the regression, you're gonna press Menu, Statistics, Stat Calculations. Now, let's look at all of these. So we have done MX plus B. This is our linear regression, okay? We've done that one. We've done exponential regression all the way down here, okay? This is asking me for my quadratic model. So that must mean I'm going to quadratic, number 6. Now be very careful. Many, many people when they're in a hurry will come to number 8 and they will press quartic because they didn't read it. That is not what you want. You will be very wrong and very sad. Okay, so you're gonna click quadratic regression. And just like we've done on the other ones, your X list should be your X values or whatever you labeled, whether you labeled it time, height, that kind of thing. And this is my Y. Then I'm gonna come down here and I'm gonna press OK. Now remember, all of this data shows up in my calculator, okay? Now, the only difference from my previous problems that we've done is we've always looked for our R. We've looked at our R for our linear regression, and we've looked at our R for our exponential regression. Now, what's a little different is this is our quadratic regression. So on our calculator, we are going to look at our r squared. This is only for quadratic regression. Anything else, we look at the r, okay? We would look at our r. But here, r squared, this is very, 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 very important. So if you see, I'm going to zoom back out now so we can look at our notes page. So looking at your calculator, we see that our correlation coefficient, which is our r squared, is going to be 0.99, okay? Now, for our regression equation, we know our regression is always written as ax squared plus bx plus c. If you ever forget that, zooming back into my calculator. On your calculator, if you look right here, it shows you that equation, ax squared plus bx plus c. So if you ever forget which formula you're on, oops. Okay, so now I'm gonna look. It gave me negative 16.81 for my A, 120.59, which really is gonna be 0.6 because we're gonna round up to the second decimal place, and then negative 1.14. Okay, so I'm now gonna write this in for my regression equation. So what this is saying is this is the best fit equation for this amount, for this data given. Negative 16.81 x squared plus 120.6, and you can put 0.60 if you'd like, minus 1.14. Remember, we're rounding to 2 decimal places for all of this, which means you have to look at the third number. Some of you might be confused. My B value on my calculator was 120.595. Okay, so this is the number I'm stopping at, but I have to look at the 5. The 5 means I round this one up. Well, if I round 9 up, it becomes 10, which means 59 becomes 60. Okay, so you're going to do the same exact thing now for number 2 when you get to that problem. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and flip it over. I'm realizing this is kind of blurry. There we go. So next, we're going to do number 3. Number 3, same exact thing. It just wants a little more information. It says using the graphing calculator, perform the quadratic regression, then solve the problem and identify and interpret the domain and the range. Okay, so the height of the model rocket in feet t seconds after it is launched vertically is shown at the following table. Determine the maximum height. Okay, so we know we're shooting off some rocket, and here's my rocket, and we're shooting it, and it's gonna go up like this. Okay, and then eventually it's gonna come back down, okay? Just realized you can't see that. Okay, so first we need to find our best fit line for this data. What line is gonna make, or what quadratic parabola is gonna make sense with this information? So we're gonna go back to our calculator. Zoom in for you guys again. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and clear my Excel spreadsheet of my data I just did so I can start a fresh one. So I'm going to go to my list and spreadsheets. I'm going to label X and I'm going to label Y. I'm going to put in all my data. Okay. Then I'm going to put in my data here. If at any time I'm going too fast, go ahead and ask Miss Gray to pause it so that, oops, 902, so that you can catch up with putting the stuff in the calculator. 1335, 1459, 1584, 1864. Okay, so I should have all my stuff. I've got my highlighted thing not in the gray and not on the white, or not on my data. I'm gonna press menu, statistics, we're going to stat calculations, and we're going to go to number 6, quadratic regression. Okay, I'm going to put X for my X list and Y for my Y list. And I'm going to press OK. So now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to see that this is my best fit line. So I'm going to go ahead and move this so we can now look at my paper. So my regression equation is negative 11.19 x squared plus 304.07 plus 81.54. Okay, so now it wants its max height, which really is its maximum. So it wants this highest point. Well, we know how to do that. And it also wants the domain and the range. Okay, so best way to do all this, go back to your calculator. Okay, we want to now graph this quadratic function. So go back to your home and go to your graph. And we want to type in this equation into our graph. So we're going to type in negative 11.19 x squared plus 304.07 x plus 81.54. And we're going to press enter. Okay, this does not look right. Okay, this does not look like my rocket. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to menu. I'm going to zoom, and I'm going to zoom to fit. Okay, starting to look better, but I can't see my max height. My max height is somewhere over here, so we're going to zoom out some more. Menu zoom, zoom out. And I'm going to press over here, and I'm going to press now in the center to make it a little more normal looking for me. You don't have to. If you're happy with how it looks, go for it. Okay, now I know my max height is right here. Okay, so I'm looking for the Y value. I'm looking for the maximum height. So remember, we can do this. We can go to menu, analyze our graph, and we're looking for that maximum height. So I'm just going to come over here, left side. It says lower bound. I'm going to press enter. I'm going to now highlight my upper bound. So somewhere over here, just so I know I for sure get that maximum. And I'm going to press enter. Okay, so I'm going to drag this so we can see this better. So it says 13.6, that's the X, so that's the distance. Okay, now that's the time, I guess, and this is my maximum height. Now, remember, this E plus 3 means we're going to move the decimal place over 3 times. So it's going to go over 1, 2, one more time. So that means my maximum height is going to be 2,150 feet, which we really had. It was 2.15 e to the positive 3, which means we moved it over 3 times. Okay? Now, looking at our graph, okay, we've got this graph. So remember, domain for quadratic functions. This is going on forever and ever out to the right and left. So we know for our domain, it's always all real numbers, which means negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay? Now, for my range, okay, we know technically, looking at this graph, that it can't go past ground, right? It's not going to go into the ground, is it? Let's be realistic here. So we're used to doing these arrows, but for a word problem like this, it's going to hit the ground and it's going to stop. So for my range, we know its highest point right here is, what did we just say? 2,150. So again, we do our low to our high. So our low is 0 because that's the ground, and it's inclusive, so we underline, and our high is inclusive, 2,150. Okay? So I've just done 2 of those. You now have 3 that you're going to do, and then you're going to come check it. Okay? Make sure on these last 2 you also have the domain and range, and you find This one, it says maximum revenue, which is your Y over here. So it's going to be your maximum again. This one says